I had an unexpected termination after having a nervous breakdown on the job. Hey there, purpose-driven therapist. Do you remember when you finally acquired your professional license after all those years of hard work and dedication? Undergraduate, graduate school, 3,000 plus clinically supervised hours, passing the law ethics exam and the clinical vignette. And to maintain our licensure, we all are committed to our ongoing development through continuing education credits, particularly to renew our license every 2 years. I remember when I got licensed, I felt like I had finally made it to the National Football League, and I was a first round draft pick. I had a belief that because I was licensed, I was now going to not only continue to impact lives, because you know that as a therapist, the impact that you have on people's lives, marriages, families, the way you protect vulnerable children and elders, the way you help people return to work and be productive, the impact that we all have on the lives of our clients, it's second to none. Truly amazing. Well, when I got licensed, I want to continue having that impact. And what I expected was I would also have and be able to enjoy a certain amount of time freedom and financial freedom so that I can live my best life, not only when I'm serving clients, but actually have the resources to enjoy my life when I'm not working in my practice. And so I did what many of us do. I got my license. At the time, I was looking for a local agency, and I made my first move, and I took a higher paying position with the county. And it was good for stability. As you know, when you're a W-2 employee, there's benefits to having a steady salary, solid insurance, all those things. But something inside of me just knew that I had the ability and capacity to produce more, have greater impact, and increase my income. So I made another job change and I took a position at a local hospital. And let me tell you, just being licensed from a business perspective, what I realized more than ever was that not only did I get my LMFT license 100111, but depending on your employer and the mindset of your leadership, you will be treated like a number. And it's miserable. So anyway, I left the hospital setting. Then I took a and I was there and I was required to see a minimum of 16 patients a day, document it all, do it all over again. That's more than 100 client contacts in a week, high risk, high acuity, safety cell recommendations, crisis work, midnight shifts. If you're a therapist, this is no surprise to you. We do this. This is who we are. This is how we operate. Well, in my case, at the time I was a breadwinner, married for 4 years. My beloved bride and I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I had an unexpected termination after having a nervous breakdown on the job. And that was a defining moment in my life. I had to ask myself, what in the world was I going to do now? 38 years old, licensed marriage therapist, husband of 4 years, 3-year-old daughter, breadwinner, lost my income, just like that unexpectedly. That's when I decided that whatever I did, it was going to be in the best interest of my self-care, my family, my business. As a matter of fact, I decided to bet on myself and start my own private practice, like many of us do. So for me, when I got licensed, it was actually and escape from the W-2 nightmare of being treated like a number to hit quotas and not being valued as a person. Well, in private practice, the first move I made was to join a online platform, a tech company. And if I saw a client, family, or couple for a full 50 minutes, I got paid $25 for that session. Do the math, not very hard, easy to figure out. That's not sustainable when you're an adult, you have a family, and you want to move things forward in your family. So I eventually left that tech company and I got handled on a specific insurance company that paid at a higher rate, a little more than 3 times more than I was getting previously. But I was still on what many people call the struggle bus of like high volume of clients, getting reimbursed by insurance, requesting for higher rates from insurance when the time came for that. But the insurance companies, they want to be profitable. And when you're a therapist on an insurance panel, we are their profit center. So I eventually decided that I would begin focusing on building a successful private pay practice. This decision for me was a game changer. Whew. Game changing because the decision to transition to private pay, I'll be straight with you, I'll be honest, it's scary. The thought and idea of having a long-term relationship with a caseload of clients whom at the time I had met through the tech company and the insurance panel, if then deciding to leave and transition to private pay, I was afraid of losing my clients. And I didn't know exactly how I would acquire private pay clients. And so what I did, one thing I've always done since being in my business, in God's grace, I've always hired some type of business coach. And hiring business coaches for me has been saving grace for my life and my business because it allowed me to be in environments and in rooms and have conversations with trained mental health care providers, one of them based out of the Bay Area in California, another one based out of Georgia. And I've hired other coaches, a lot of them on the East Coast, quite frankly, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Silver Springs, Maryland. If you haven't figured it out, been doing quite a bit of traveling just to be in the right environment, to be in the right rooms, and to have conversations about how to build a successful business. Well, this is relevant to you because you may be where I was at, where you're on a tech company, you're on several insurance panels, and you're thinking about private pay, but you're not sure how to do it. Well, first and foremost, it's a commitment. At some point, despite your fears, your doubts, your insecurities, you have to decide to commit to becoming private pay. Once you make that decision, earth and heaven will begin to move in your favor. The universe will begin to reveal to you new opportunities and new relationships, new communities. About community. When you're a licensed therapist in private practice, many of us are W-2, tech companies, insurance-based. So it's really hard to find a community of therapists that are dedicated to being private pay. But when you make that commitment, it's amazing how you begin to notice that in some cases, you have some therapists right there in your backyard. that you are in close proximity to who are building a successful private pay practice. Now, why is this important? This is important because when you want to become someone, when you want to do something, when you want to have something, one of the best things for you to do is to find someone who has done and who's doing what you want to do. They have the things you want to have, and they are the type of provider that you want to become. In this case, not just private pay, but I began being in rooms and having conversations with therapists who are premium private pay. What I mean by that is there are some private pay therapists who undercharge significantly for the value that they bring to people's lives, the value they bring to the marketplace. And if that's you, I've been there too. As a matter of fact, I remember I had several clients I saw pro bono because I had a belief that when I saw these clients pro bono, that they would value my service, their lives would be changed. And because I did it for free and they were impacted, then they would go out there and spread the word. And there'll be the good news about this LMFT, Jamal Jones, who offered us pro bono services, changed our life, and you should hire him to pay his rate, which, by the way, he undercharges. Well, that plan didn't work. My point is, no shame, no gaslighting. I totally get it. If you are private pay and you're undercharging, and because of that, you have a high volume of clients and you're worried and stressed about how to make ends meet, and you're dealing with late cancellations and no-shows, it's a nightmare. It is an absolute nightmare. And so that brings me to the power of being in relationship and in community with other private pay therapists who are making bold moves to not just be private pay, but to actually charge at a premium. Let me ask you this question. How much do you think people will pay for therapy? You can guess, you can make assumptions, you can talk to colleagues in the industry, but you'll never know the truth until you find out on your own. And that's what I did. And let me tell you a story about one client that I met through the tech company I was telling you about. So at the time, the tech company was paying me $25 if I saw a client for a full 50-minute session. When I left the tech company, this particular client, he joined me with private pay and he began invest session in his individual transformation. Obviously, I still had some work to do when it came to my belief in myself, belief in the value I was offering him. And like I said, I hired coaches, I joined communities, I had accountability, I began to implement. And this client would eventually go from investing $75 weekly to $175 biweekly. At that time, he was not paying my full fee, which was now $250. I did have a handful of clients who were investing $250 per session. So you can see how, as I continue to grow and mature, not only clinically, but in my understanding of business and belief in myself and the value that I'm bringing to the marketplace and building my caseload. This same client who was at $175 biweekly would eventually decide to put down a deposit of $4,000 toward a clinical container that was valued at $10,000. And because of our rapport and our history, I decided to offer him a customer loyalty discount of 20%, and he ended up paying a full $8,000 by the time he was done with the payment plan. That story is a powerful illustration of what's possible for you when you think about all of the clients who are on your caseload right now. They know you, they like you, they trust you, they love you, they want to work with you. They've shared their trauma with you, their pain, their suffering, their hopes, their dreams, their aspirations. And frankly, they do not want to go out there and find a new provider. They want to continue working with you because relationships are important, particularly when it comes to who you choose to have as your individual therapist or marriage counselor or couples counselor. So you have people on your caseload who, if you decide to grow and mature and actually believe in yourself and understand the value that you're offering them and communicate that value, they'll invest at a higher rate. They'll invest more in their personal transformation and their desired outcome and then clinical outcomes through you. And so one of my frustrations as I've been growing the last several years is obviously I'm still married and we have a beautiful daughter. I love the city of Fresno. I love the San Joaquin Valley. I grew up in the North Bay area. I am California born, California bred. And again, I've been to Georgia, Maryland, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, throughout the country. I've hired other coaches in South Carolina for different reasons, some for business coaching. One was a sales coach. I've been part of several masterminds. And all of these are incredible experiences that I'll recommend that you do if you're not doing it already. Because you can see how I've benefited from all of these. But I do not want to travel alone to Florida, Maryland, Georgia, leave my wife and daughter here working, going to school. I do it when necessary, but I decided that it's time to make a difference right here in my backyard in Fresno. And I asked myself, who in Fresno is helping us in the San Joaquin Valley build successful private pay practices? I know there are people in here doing it, and I consult with some on occasion. We decide to get this type of support. We're going to LA, the Bay Area, or somewhere else in the country. So that's why I decided to create Private Pay Court Fresno Live. You might be wondering why the name Private Pay Court. You see, if you're serious about being private pay and you want to charge premium rates for the services that you provide, the value you bring people's lives, one of the most important foundational steps, this is essential, it's absolute, it cannot be skipped in all of these masterminds, individual coaching, group coaching, marketing programs, sales conversations. This one exercise is fundamental. It's a foundational piece to it all. You must become crystal clear on exactly who you are called to serve. This is your ideal client avatar. I like to call it my dream client profile. But not only understand who this person is, but to really have a deep understanding of what is their pain, their suffering, their challenges, their hopes, their dreams. What's waking them up at 3 o'clock in the morning and they can't go back to sleep? You got to pick one. Commit to this dream client. Understand deeply who they are, their struggles, and be able to demonstrate that you understand who they are better than they understand themselves. And for that reason, the riches are in how you niche as a premium therapist. And so this is very similar to being a lawyer. A great attorney knows the people involved. They know the problem involved. They understand deeply what's going on. They build a powerful and compelling case beyond reasonable doubt to convince the jury and the judge of the verdict or the outcome. When it comes to being a premium private pay therapist, your jury is the marketplace. This is important because one of the biggest problems that many therapists have is we get stuck thinking about ourself, our clinical expertise, our consults with one another, and we have a habit of using our clinical jargon, our professional language to communicate to the marketplace. When you're doing a case consultation with another provider, that's appropriate. You have the DSM-5, we have our interventions, we have our modalities, certifications. Those things do carry some weight when it comes to how you communicate and coordinate services and develop plans of care in coordination with one another. But let me be clear about this. When it comes to the market, and by market, I mean the individuals, the couples, the families, the organizations out there who are in desperate need of your expertise, they don't want to hear all this clinical jargon. They want you to be able to speak to them directly in their language about their pain, about their suffering, and they want to know how you can help them get from that pain and suffering to the other side of possibility and hope. And unless you get to a place to where you can defend your dream client, build a compelling case for your dream client, or why you are the obvious choice for them to work with, while investing in themselves at a higher level. Now, why live? Why Private Pay Court Fresno live? We're living in times where there's all kinds of fake news, automations, algorithms, group coaching programs, online services. Look, a big part of my life is online. I'm very active on different platforms. I have an online network. It has its place, and it's been very instrumental in how I've grown as a person, as a leader, as a professional, as a husband, as a father. However, there's something special about being in person, in the room, with real intelligence, asking the hard questions, getting direct answers, and not from artificial intelligence, but from lived, real experiences. When you're a private pay therapist and you're in community in the same room with other like minded therapists who are on a similar journey, it is game changing for you and for the community. And so that's what we're doing. We're bringing private pay court right here to Fresno live. This is going to be a monthly event. And I am so excited about it. And I look forward to you being part of it. If you're ready to not just be a therapist in private practice who undercharges, over delivers, but to actually become a premium private pay therapist who sets your rates based upon the value that you bring to the people's lives you work with, the marketplace, Private Pay Court Fresno is just for you. I'm Jamal Jones, licensed marriage and family therapist and growth coach for therapists in private practice, the founder of Purpose Driven Therapist. God bless you and be encouraged.